They called it a wedding, but it was never about love. A girl barely 14 stood before a man twice her age. No music, no joy, only the priest's voice echoing through the morning air. Marriage was not a choice. It was a contract, a bargain struck between families, carved in silence. That night, there were no locked doors, no privacy. Families slept side by side, parents, children, even animals under the same roof. The young couple, still strangers to one another, lay under a thin blanket, their whispers swallowed by the coughs and snores around them. So they created codes. A pillow shifted twice meant "Are you awake?" A braid tucked behind the ear meant "Come closer." Their world was built on signals, a quiet language of longing, where even the smallest touch risked discovery. But even when love bloomed, the church was listening. Desire was called danger. Pleasure was called sin. A bride once whispered to her priest, "I enjoy my husband's touch." His answer was cold, "Fast 3 days. Pray twice as hard. Do not speak of it again." The church decided when couples could love each other. No intimacy on Fridays, none on Sundays, none during Lent, none on feast days. Some years, nearly half the calendar was forbidden. Love was not theirs to own, it belonged to the church. Yet desire does not obey rules. In the silence of night, when the fire burned low, they found stolen moments. Love became an act of rebellion, quiet, hidden, but alive. But intimacy came with danger. Every birth was a gamble between life and death. Midwives whispered prayers, husbands knelt helplessly, and neighbors waited outside, ready to call tragedy God's punishment. In castles, passion was no freer. Nobles wrote letters in secret, sealed with wax and passed through servants. A glance could mean treason. A kiss could mean exile. Love lived in shadows, hidden behind stone walls. And when rules grew too heavy, some turned to charms. Salt beneath pillows to dream of a husband. Herbs tied at the ankle for children. Potions whispered into ale. Some called it hope. Others called it witchcraft. But secrets were dangerous. Women who knew too much were called witches. One wrong word, one healing herb, and love became evidence of sin. They risked not just shame, but fire. And yet, joy found its way through cracks. Children giggled under blankets, lovers stole clumsy kisses, and families laughed together by the fire. Life was not only duty. Sometimes it was laughter. Love also lived in the smallest acts. A husband grinding grain beside his wife, hands brushing, eyes meeting. No words needed. Their intimacy was not always in bed. It was in bread, in fire, in survival. Privacy was never certain. Thin curtains offered little protection. Families pretended to sleep, ears open, eyes closed. Desire was wrapped in fear of shame, but still, it burned. For many, love was not grand gestures. It was watching a husband walk to the well barefoot, or a wife saving the softest bread crust for him. Love was survival, wrapped in tiny offerings. But not all marriages held warmth. Some women spent nights alone, staring at the stars while their husbands slept beside them like strangers. Intimacy was not promised. It had to be found or stolen. Some risked everything for secret love. Lovers met in forests, under moonlight, far from watchful eyes. Every touch was a gamble. But to them, even one moment of freedom was worth the risk of ruin. Jealousy, too, lived in their world. A glance too long, a smile too warm, small things could spark rage. Love was fragile, always threatened by suspicion. The church reminded them daily. Intimacy was for children, not pleasure. Husbands and wives bowed their heads, their private lives judged by public sermons. Even behind closed doors, they felt watched. But perhaps the hardest truth was loss. Love was fragile not just because of rules, but because life itself was short. A fever, a wound, a war, and suddenly, one side of the bed was forever empty. We imagine medieval love as brutal and cold. But in truth, it was quieter, hidden in signals, lived in shadows. They had no privacy, no freedom, no locked doors. Yet they had candlelight, memory, and courage. Love was always a secret, always a gamble, but always worth the risk. And as the candle burns low, the story ends. Good night.